everyone, welcome back to my channel, welcome if you're new. My name's Lauren and welcome to day 8 of BOOKMAS. Okay, so today we're talking about the DNFs and the worst books that I read this year. I'm gonna go through the DNFs that I had first, but the first one is Circe by Madeline Miller. I don't remember a lot about it, but I just, after reading The Song of Achilles, I don't know why I expected this to be any better. I don't like the writing style. It is a lot of telling instead of showing. That's how she writes books, and for me, it wasn't gonna work. So I think I DNF'd it like maybe 50 pages in, not very far at all. So that was a DNF. I DNF'd The Handmaid's Tale. I think I made it a quarter of the way through. And it wasn't that it was bad. It is very triggering. And I think I got enough of the gist of the plot to sort of understand what this story was about. I don't think I needed to continue to really understand where we were going. I think I'm just gonna watch the show instead. So there's that. And I DNF'd Unfortunately Yours by Tessa Bailey. I didn't even write a review for it. I don't remember why. I read it quite early on in the year. I think I'm exhausted from Tessa Bailey. I don't think that she really makes sense to me anymore. Some of these are getting DNFs and not necessarily like the worst books that I have read. So the next one is not necessarily the worst book that I ever read, but it didn't need to be what it was. So I DNF'd Royally Not Ready by Megan Quinn. I DNF'd it around like the 60% mark. I felt that the drama was a bit ridiculous at points and it dragged on for way too long. Had this been like 200 to 300 pages, like a short sort of epilogue-y novella maybe, with the same drama, I think it would have been better and I probably would have enjoyed it more. I'd gotten that far and I was like, can we move things along? Like, I'm patiently waiting. It just didn't do it for me. So I was just like, I don't want to continue, because I probably would have just hate read it and I just didn't want to continue. So that's why I DNF'd it. I think if I liked long books, then maybe, but I really have struggled with long books this year. Could have been my attention span, but I felt like the pages weren't being used wisely. So again, that was a DNF. Not the worst book I ever read, but just a DNF. Next is another DNF that I don't really have too much to say about it. And again, it was a me thing. Maybe if I had have read this maybe 6 years ago when I started reading romance again and just reading again as an adult, maybe I would have liked it. But for me in my grown age and the way that I like books, it just didn't work for me. So I DNF'd The Simple Wild by K.A. Tucker. Again, had I read this in 2018, I probably would have loved it when it did come out. I'm pretty sure it came out in 2018, something like that. I don't think any of the characters were likable, and I think, again, given my age, I want likable characters. I want characters that I can root for and believe in and want to be together. As I DNF'd this around 55% mark, and they would fall into my list of couples that would get divorced. The characters were quite one-dimensional, lacked a lot of depth, and there was sort of no growth that was happening. I think, like I said, 55% of the way through it, there was no growth, there was no journey that either of these characters were going on. There was a lot of silly little drama. I've aged out of this kind of book. And one that I literally have nothing to say about is The Devil in the Deep Blue Sea. I wrote in my review, I DNF'd it around chapter 33. I don't remember how far into the book that was. And I just wrote in my review, I don't get it, I'm bored. So I DNF'd it. Could have been my mood. I was just wanting quite fast-paced books. I did read this in like June, July, so I was like not wanting things that took too long. I was not into slow burns, I think, this year. Next we have my 3 DNFs, my late book DNFs that I have a lot to say about and angered me. So we are officially on to the worst books that I read section. Ones that I don't really necessarily feel indifferent about, I feel anger towards. The first ones, I felt anger, like I felt indifferent about them. Again, could have been a mood thing, could have been an age thing, could have been anything, but they were just not for me. More that I just DNF'd them and didn't like them because they weren't for me. The ones that are coming up, the next 3 are DNFs that I have strong feelings about, and then I have my reviews of books that I finished and truly didn't like. The first one is Mr. Garcia, and I DNF'd this around the 75% mark. This book had potential, but it went a lot of different directions. He was coming into a coffee shop, she was blown away by him, then there was a sex club scene, and then all of a sudden he's the Prime Minister, and I was like, what is happening? Had this been a little bit more streamlined, again, length is really bothering me, and more concise with a clear plot direction, I probably would have liked it, because this is the synopsis of this book. He was older, gorgeous, and guarded. I knew he was trouble from the moment we locked eyes. We met at work on my first day as a barista. He smiled, I melted, he tasted my coffee and threw it away. And he kept coming back, blah, blah, blah. He was God's gift to women. We ran into each other outside of the coffee house, and that's how things got interesting, blah, blah, blah. He's got a darker side, blah, he's got demons, blah, blah, blah. So if this had either gone with the grumpy, broody guy she was dealing with at a sex club, would have been fine. Or if it was broody politician storyline, I would have been okay with the Prime Minister storyline, but it was neither. It was both. I think it needed to be one or the other. It was too much Too many words, too many pages. I don't need to subject myself to this torture. So then we move into a book that I've never had such a visceral reaction towards, and that was The Final Offer by Lauren Asher. Again, what are we doing? We are not using our words wisely. This was 600 fucking pages, I'm pretty sure. 560 pages according to Goodreads. I DNF this around the 50% mark, and at that point we had no romance brewing, no avenue for reconciliation between these two main characters. They hadn't even left the house that they were renovating. Like they literally had not stepped foot outside of this house at any point in their interactions. I understand how FMC was jaded and dealing with the pain that she went through, and he's an alcoholic, and it was a heavy topic, but I just think that it could have been done better. It could have been done better, and I just could not continue. I love a slow burn, but at the 50% mark, I expected there to be at least a friendship forming. These two were still fighting at the 50% mark, so that got DNF'd. Then we have Shut Out by Avery Keelan. I DNF'd this at the 55% mark. The fact that she unironically uses the term methinks really threw me out of the story, and now I know that these guys were college kids, but I still think that the maturity levels of these characters was really off. They were very immature in one moment, then dealing with quite heavy, mature topics in the next. I don't think, like, we needed to pick one or the other. I feel like it needed to be either more mature in an adult setting, or keep them at the maturity that they were at without dealing with these heavier subject matters. It just felt unbalanced. There was no romantic build-up. Again, this was another one where a lot of their romance developed off the page, which didn't make sense for a romance book. A lot of focus on their physical connection rather than their romantic one. Typical problem that I've been having with hockey romances here. And to my point of dealing with heavy topics, her mum had cancer, and I felt like the cancer subplot was put there to make our FMC anxious and cause some level of hysteria within her. I think that there was a better way to deal with it, and again, I don't think that this plot line fit well with the age demographic of these characters. Again, had they been adults, I think it would have been better, but then the characters just lack maturity, full stop, so I don't think it works that way either. There was a really off-putting pacing about it 55% of the way through, and I just could not connect to these characters, and I didn't feel any chemistry at all. Then I read The Roommate by Rosie Dannon, and I DNF'd this around the 80% mark, and I was really enjoying this book. I was having a great time up until that point, and at that point, the FMC shits on the MMC and is so assholey to him, and I go, why? It was so mean-spirited, and I just went, no, I don't need to read about this. I don't like this. So that's why I DNF'd it, and I think had that not happened like that, I probably actually would have really enjoyed this book, but I didn't. Then we're going to talk about the ones that I actually finished. So let's start with Sicko by Amo Jones. This was set up to be something that I thought I would really enjoy. It's a stepbrother trope, motorcycle romance. It just did nothing for me. I don't know what was trying to be done here. It was really unhinged. It didn't feel like a dark romance, but it felt chaotic. It kind of felt like a bad version of Lord Society. It felt messy, disjointed. There was a lack of true building of suspense, so I didn't like it. I really don't have a lot to say about it because I just really didn't like it. It didn't fit for what I thought it would be like. The spice was okay, but I just wasn't blown away. Next is this series. Now, this had potential. The first book, I was like, okay, maybe 2.5, but then it just goes down. I really enjoyed the plot of this, but I really didn't like the romance, and this book series felt lazy from Tate James. The fact that his name was John, and he was like, I think in this book, he said, that's my real name and I'm not lying. And he said it in his head, not out loud. He said it to himself, he was talking to us as the reader. And then at the end, it was like, no, my name's actually not John. That's my heist identity. So which one is it? It felt like she was just forcing herself to write this series and didn't know what to do. So to me, it just felt like she truly lost passion for this series and was struggling with the MF format after doing Why Choose and Polly. So I don't know, I didn't like it, I didn't get it. Then we have Funny You Should Ask by Elisa Sussman. This is a Chris Evans style fanfiction romance. For a short book, it felt like this book really dragged. I couldn't connect with the story at all. I wasn't engaged at all. Do I think this was bad? Maybe not, but for me, I was just I couldn't get into it at all. I felt really confused, and obviously this plot line is very unrealistic, but it also just felt like there was no attempt to make this feel a little bit more realistic and more rooted in reality. So I didn't like it. Then we have Mine by A.K. Rose. I've read this a long time ago. Like, I read this in February. I don't remember anything really specific about it. I remember not overly being attached to the plot. The plot was like sort of non-existent to me. It felt boring, and it ends on a cliffy, but I felt like the cliffy sort of happened a little too late to keep me intrigued into the plot. Like, it just kind of didn't blow me away. And then I think the thing that icked me out the most was that it is a stepbrother romance, which I'm fine with, but the boys were all blood brothers and sharing the same girl and doing group scenes, and I couldn't get behind it. I have read a stepbrother White Shoes since then, and it wasn't icky because they weren't blood brothers, but I don't know. For me, this was odd. Then I read The Fucking Wrong Number by C.R. Jane. I don't remember a lot. I love the Lord series, and after reading that, I need like a higher stakes dark romance. There was very low stakes in this. Darkness felt kind of unnecessary because the MMC was a true secret cinnamon roll, so there's that. His obsession with her kind of felt unneeded because there was no like real threat to her existence. I think it was more of a me thing than anything else. Yeah, I don't think it necessarily belonged in the dark romance category. It was made, to me, it felt like it was made dark for sort of no reason, and the FMC kind of had no substance. But yeah, that is all my DNFs and my worst reads of 2024. I didn't feel like there was too many that overly outraged me. I think I got really good at DNFing, and I got really good at knowing what I don't like in books this year. So I feel like my DNFs actually enraged me more than the ones that I completed, because I hate, like, I kind of read them and I was like, okay, there's some redeeming qualities, but my DNFs, there was literally no redeeming qualities. That's it for today's video. I need to get a wiggle on with the day, so I'm going to stop this video here. I hope you guys liked this. Comment below what your worst read of 2024 was. I'd love to know. I think the one that is my worst read is probably is Final Offer by Lauren Asher. That probably left me the most enraged out of everything. Make sure you like and subscribe because there's still a few more videos coming your way. I've still got the best of coming, and I will see you guys tomorrow for my next video. Bye guys.